Okay, here we are, back. I'm Rasheed and Laurie, back with Janet Kumah. An act for your industry. You've just done a costume change. From part 1 to part 2.
I was getting really hot in part 1.
Yeah, you're getting really excited. Well, we're talking about this really challenging journey, isn't it? Of really, we're talking a bit about your life and your own career, but which echoes, of course, so many of us who've had careers in singing entertainment. It's a tough industry, it's difficult. So many people, there are ups and downs. You've talked about things in the auditions, the times of not having money or very little to eat and so on. Oh gosh, there's so much to talk about. And then we talked about that, whether people actually want this thing, of if fame, because I love the moment where you're talking about how you'd called the album, then the next thing you expected that you're going to be a star.
Yeah,
and so on.
my God, of course. It was just like, yeah, that's what happened. So I left this 30 show, now this is how it's going to be, and it didn't happen. And like I said, I was trying to push it, and I was trying to just get it out there, and I just felt like there was lots of closed doors. And I think maybe because of the process of just trying to get it seen by people, get it viewed by people, all of this stuff, because I just felt like I wasn't getting anywhere.
Well, and was that worse?
I started feeling stress.
Was it worse because you had by that point some of the success of doing stuff like West End shows? Did that then make that worse, that then when you go to recording your album you think, okay, now I'm established enough that people should be responding? Because it must be interesting if one week everybody's applauding and then the next week nobody's interested.
No, I think for me it's always more of a kind of, do I feel like I'm ready?
Right.
That's number one. Always essential for me. Do I feel like I'm ready? Because I don't want to be in a situation whereby I don't know who I am, and I don't know, and I'm not confident with what it is that I have. So it's just more like that, and I felt like I was ready for this. So in my head it was like, now we're going to, so this is going to happen. So it didn't happen. Right,
I like the things that you're talking about then, that inner thing, because sometimes with this music, this whole entertainment thing, it can be needing to prove something. What I like about, in your case, there's this thing about, actually, it's a far more, they say that, and in coaching and so on, that you get some people who are kind of internally referenced and some people who are externally referenced. I'm certainly probably similar to you. I'm very internally referenced. Okay, what feels right, blah, blah, I'm going with it. I think it must be very challenging when people, that's that external reference, that external, validation and all the rest of it.
Yeah.
What are the things that what being up for you personally, what are the things you're most proud about on your journey of being a singer, performer to date so far? What are the things that you're most pleased about and proud about?
Can I go, if I go back to what I was going to say, because I think it kind of leans into the question that you've asked. When I decided that it wasn't for me anymore, genuinely, it wasn't like boomerang and I was expecting it to get hit back. It was just, clearly this is not my path, I'm going to do something else. And without trying to sound cheesy or cliche, music found me in the sense that I noticed that I was starting to feel down and a little bit depressed because I wasn't singing as a pleasure.
You said there was a period of time where you hadn't sung for a note.
That's right. And then when I started singing, I actually started to feel better. And maybe what had happened was I just kind of lost perspective.
Right.
And so whereas, like you said before, it was more of a thing that was giving me comfort. When I was putting that album together, it gave me comfort.
I'm so glad you drew us back here.
All of a sudden, I was kind of like, I kind of lost my positioning, whereby I was trying to convince other people, this was great, this was great, this was great. And it was like, I was becoming something that I'm not. And it's almost like, that is not something that I know, that is not something that I'm in touch with. And trying to be that depressed me to the point where I was like, this is not me. But actually the music was always part of me. And so that's when I kind of went back into it.
So what is that thing about, because I'm so glad you took us back to this point, because I think that everybody who we're singing or acting, whatever it is in their business, you've got to find out what it is about. And I think there's something interesting that I don't think it ever leaves you. I mean, I'm a coach, but I still record for me, so I get that, and I know that I could never leave it. It's there. You can't. And I know some people who, I think that sometimes it will. I think it will play out in its own particular kind of way. What's your?
Absolutely.
So what is this thing about for you? What is this whole music and same acting thing about for you? What is it about?
I don't know if I can put a name on it. All I know is that I'm at a stage in my life whereby I think I'm starting to listen to myself a bit more and feel confident in knowing when something feels great. Let's kind of make it clear. I'm not earning millions to the point where I can say I'm not going to do that. I'm not going to do that. But you know, if there's something new which I haven't tried out before, I think I'm in that place whereby I can recognise a fear for me being scared to try something and me being excited about learning something new. If that kind of makes sense.
It does make sense. It does make sense.
I think I know the difference enough to at least try it out. But yeah, I don't know. All I know is that, you know, when I do it, I love it, and I have a massive appreciation for it. And I had to do a lot of things which I probably didn't like beforehand to know myself.
Right. Well, what's your take on success? And I'll tell you why. Because some people, I mean, we've touched on this, you know, sometimes, particularly in the early years, you have this idea of, okay, I want to be here, I want to be on the West End, or I want a #1 selling album. And you've probably had experiences whereby you've had some of the successes that people would love to aspire to. You understand those things, but you also know the things that people would aspire to and haven't had. What's your take on success, and what are the things that you're still wanting to achieve from this business? Because it's a tricky one, isn't it? This whole thing.
Well, at the moment, I'm still singing. I'm doing more acting at the moment, and I'm loving it. I'm really loving it, and I think I'm glad that I kind of went from the band and I went back to this at this time in my life, because this is when it had to happen for me. And I'm just loving a lot of the projects that I've been involved with and that I am still involved with. I think aspirationally for me, I really want to go to the States, and I really want to. I really want to kind of. I really want to try TV series and you know, films and kind of like work with different directors and stuff like that, because it's so beautiful. What I mean, oh my God, what's her name?
Oh, is it Thingy Davis? Is it Thingy Davis? Is it the lady who just won the Emmy? Is it the lady who won the Emmy recently?
It wasn't Viola Davis, was it? It is Ava DuVernay. She directed Selma.
Oh, okay, yes. Okay.
Jesus, beautiful film. It was just and that's her art flourishing.
Right.
I was speaking to somebody the other day, and I think they were quoting me from somebody else, but what they were saying was that we're all born artists in our own way, and it kind of seems throughout our journeys on this earth, it's almost like we put these layers on top and we kind of forget who it is that we are. And at some point in our life, what we start doing is taking off these layers to kind of get back to get back in touch with that way of expression that feels right for us. And I feel like that's what I'm doing. And when I see, you know, maybe films or music or pieces or art or whatever it is, it kind of makes me happy to see how someone has kind of flourished in their own way. It makes me want to be a part of it. It inspires me.
What I'm hearing from you that's interesting is that there's this blend between, sometimes we get caught up, I think, in this notion of, okay, I'm here and I want to achieve that. But then when you began to talk about, you know, about this thing is, okay, well, what makes my heart sing? What feels right for me? And then I think there comes a point whereby, and then there's a moment where you talked about, okay, actually, you know what, I can do that. I'm going to put myself forward for this, and I'm being creative about that. And then I think that then we can kind of blend them all, which is, okay, what are the things that I'm wanting to do? So it allows a little bit of the success, the aspirational bit. You know, these are the things I'm wanting to do. Yes, I do want to do film, I do want to do this, I do want to do that. But not from a need point of view that I think can emerge often. And I've seen so many, I've known people who are so talented, some who've made it and some who haven't made it in this industry, who it's all about need. I can think of somebody who is such a talented singer, I knew from, and he was a really talented singer. He became a star, he wanted to become a star, but by the time he became a star, he was just a star. People didn't know how good a singer he was, and he became, you know, did all the celebrity kind of stuff. He became a celebrity. Fine, but I'm not sure if that had time for his soul to be nourished. And I think that sometimes this is a very funny journey about that thing that you described, that how do you actually find what this thing is about for you? Whether you give up, not give up, whether you stop and you realise this isn't for me anymore and you go and do whatever you do, which I so agree with you is so valid, or whether you just find your own relationship to it, which is, I think, the key that you're talking about. How does one find one's own relationship with this thing and enjoy it? Because I think there's so much to learn from it, isn't it? Then it's such a joy, whatever level, whether we're doing panto down the street, whether we're just doing our own stuff around the corner, or whether we're on the West End, whatever. But do you see, because I think this is an interesting point for those people at home, you presumably, on the stuff that you've done, you've also ran into and met lots of people who've achieved what most people see a high level of fame. Do you see the ones who are both completely happy and the ones who are completely clearly not in your experience? Have you experienced that, where you can see people, a real range of those people who seem at peace with themselves and their art, and those people who aren't? What's been your experience of that?
Are you talking about fame?
Yeah, I'm talking about the people who you've met who've made it, whatever that thing is. Have you experienced a real mixture between those people who seem to be at peace with themselves with this and not? Because you seem to be at a point where you're at peace and you're enjoying it. There are still things you're wanting to do.
Yeah, big time.
But have you met lots of people who, whatever their level of fact, that you can see that there's still this wrestling with all this nonsense that we wrestle with?
I mean, I think I'm going to try and answer this the best way that I think I understand the question. But I think fame is not something which is very real. I've definitely been in that situation where myself, because I can only talk about myself, and I've definitely been in that situation where it's kind of like, I could really lose my sense of grounding here if I allowed things to get to my head. But I think I only know that because of my past experiences.
Right.
Do you know what I mean? If somebody wants to indulge in that, go do it.
Right.
Maybe that's for you now. It may not be you in God knows how many years.
Really,
but that's all part of the journey, I think.
Right.
So, but for me, I think when I have been in those scenarios, I'm like, this is great, but I think I recognise what is real and what is not.
That's
real.
really powerful.
And actually, I was listening to an interview with Adele.
Oh yeah.
She just brought out
a new
single, and she's being interviewed, and somebody said, "Oh, how do you cope with all the hype and the fame or the rest of it?" And she says, "I know what's real and what's not real, and the only thing that's changed in my life is that instead of shopping at Tesco's, I now shop at Waitrose." I'm like,
I like that.
The thing is that she's found out what it is that makes her happy, and I guess that's her friends, her family. Obviously, she's got a baby, a partner, and there's nothing wrong with that.
Yeah.
And I feel like I know what it is that makes me happy. My family are very important to me, and all the rest of it. But I think everything else that comes with it, it's a bit like, I'm not a perfect person, and I'm going to disappoint somebody somehow. So, it's just more important for me to enjoy my life. And if you get pleasure from whatever it is that I do, I'm happy.
Tell me then,
I can't live in this other type of
That's really powerful, what you're saying.
Doesn't believe for me.
Right.
And I don't judge anybody else who wants to enjoy that life. Because they're on their own journey.
Yeah, I think that's so powerful. What would be your tips and advice, if any, for somebody who's at this point aspiring to a career, this particular kind of career, or to a young Janet, because clearly there's been a lot of learning. So just as we close, because we're running out of but what would your advice? Because I like the way that you've a number of times in this interview, and I think it's really apt, where you've articulated that actually this is what it's been for me, because I think it is so difficult to comment for what it is for anybody else. But what would be your advice to anyone generally, or to a young Janet who's wanting to follow their heart and come into this industry, especially if it's an industry, into this business?
I had, and I mean I still do, sometimes confidence issues, and so I kind of feel like with the way that things have sometimes it's been like fast forward and then I've kind of had to come back and I come forward, and that's just to do with me and building my confidence, so that when somebody says to me, "You're crap," I'm like, sorry, finish. Do you know what I mean? I know myself enough. Not to say that I still don't cut when I still don't bleed when somebody cuts me, but I've had to, I've had to build my resilience in the way that I've had to build it.
Yes.
So I don't think I could have done anything any different for me. I would say for anybody else kind of out there, forget the rules.
Right.
When I go back to one of my stories whereby I felt like I couldn't audition for something because I had to wait for an agent to kind of direct me through that. It was like, my friend basically said to me, "Forget the rules, Jay, go do you."
I think that's such a powerful thing.
I think that's the only thing I can kind of say. Just jump in and do it. And even in my life still, there have been fears which I preferred to kind of just hide behind the couch. And then I kind of stop myself and I say, "You know what, Jay? You got this. Jump in and see what happens." and I've jumped in, and sometimes it's worked and sometimes it hasn't. But I think whether it's worked or whether it's not, I've always benefited in somehow. It's either built up my resilience, or it's given me an opportunity where I've done this, or I've met this person, or whatever it is.
Yeah.
So I think that's the only thing. I think if you get that idea, if you get that kind of, if you're inspired enough to go do it, go do it. Just do it. Forget what they're going to say. It just doesn't matter. 5 years time, 3 years time, 3 months time, there will be a blip. So just do it. And maybe I need to watch this back and remind myself of that.
You know what you said, just as we close, reminds me of two very powerful things I heard. I remember in this journey. I remember a couple of things. There's a line on the Quincy Jones album, I think 1989 or something, Back on the Block. And I think that's Ice-T saying, Quincy Jones said to me, if you let people tell you what to say and what to write, your whole career will be over by tomorrow night. I love that. And I remember also there's this line at the beginning of the 12-inch single of Slave to Rhythm by Grace Jones, and this voice says, this is what Edith Piaf used to say, use your thoughts and then you'll be a star. And I think that what you said is, what I would resonate with that is, I think the key thing is you've just got to follow your heart and be so true to you.
That's it.
Your job is to do your job to the best of your ability. Don't worry about the impact. And sometimes I think it's that getting so caught up on what the outcome will be that holds you back. Just do it, enjoy it. And sometimes it is really fun, isn't it? The fact that you not follow the rules or the idea of the limitation, that's sometimes when something will happen for you, isn't it?
That's it. But I've just recognised within myself that whatever it is I'm doing, I've got to be able to love it. And the times when I'm not in love with it, there's nothing wrong with kind of just sitting back. For me, in my own life, it's been a case of if it's meant to be, then it will be.
Right. And
as with that case where I just fell out of music, it came back, and I remember saying to my friend, it's like I just didn't have a choice.
Right.
And sometimes people say to me, oh, you know, Jay, you do this and you do this, and you don't have a regular job, and I kind of really admire that. And it's like, I admire what you do because you follow your heart, and all I'm doing is exactly the same thing. I'm no different. I'm no different from you.
My one final question is, what would your own piece of advice to yourself now be? What would be your advice to yourself now?
Go girl, literally go do it. Because as much as I give that advice out to everybody else, I think for me, I feel there are lots. I mean, I can think of times when I've kind of sat back on things because of fear. There's things that I'm doing now that people suggested I did 5 years ago, and at that time I said no, and now I'm saying yes, but I could have done it then. You know.
So much.
So there's a couple of things I can even think of to mind where I've just jumped in and I've been like, I don't know what's going to happen, but it's going to happen. Wow. And it will either make a fantastic story later on where I can just laugh at myself. Yeah. But that's all it will be, a fantastic story or a horrible story, but I will laugh at it at some point. So I think the advice for me, present me now, is literally, Jay, I mean, I want to swear, but just do it.
Yeah, well, I like that.
F and a G and a do it.
Well, Janet Kumah, singer, actress, I want to thank you so much for coming along and being part of the Soul Train of interviews, and I want to wish you all the best. Yeah. Have you read it, by the way? I can't remember. I was trying to think if you've been mentioned in it.
No, why would I be mentioned in this?
Because you're one of the singers I met along the journey, so I don't know if we do another one, I'm going to have to mention you in it. So I need to mention. Anyway, thank you. See you. Thanks for watching.
Bye.
And thank you very much.
Thank you. Thanks, Rash.